Time for another training camp update, and we're going to go to our Giants Insider. Today's broadcast brought to you by our friends at Crest Cadillac. Let's bring him in. He's live at the facility covering the Giants. Let's welcome in the one, the only Ed Valentine. What's up, Ed? How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. I hope you can hear me with the with the airplanes flying overhead here.
We hear the planes and you. It sounds wonderful. It gives that kind
beautiful
of
in concert,
like, it's
harmony,
like an opening thing. They fly the planes over after the anthem kind of thing. So,
which, by the way, real quick, Ed, what kind of budget do you have that at the beginning of your intro you're able to get
fly the jets
cool. in? I mean, that's wow. Okay.
Well, I don't know about my budget, but quick story, quick aside. I asked Brian Daboll a question today about all the various personalities and, guys that are energy guys and some of the big personalities that they've got on the team today. And his answer to me was, well, everybody's got some kind of swag. He said, even you have swag, Ed. so apparently I have swag.
All right, you're in the good graces of Brian Daboll. Always good. Hey, a guy I want to ask you about is a guy that I don't think we've seen, although maybe you've seen him ride an exercise bike or something. Give us the latest, if there is a latest, on a guy that's been on the PUP list, Andrew Thomas, and what is the status in terms of when his return might be?
Well, the Giants keep telling us that they believe he'll be ready for week 1, that they're just being careful, that they're trying to make sure that he'll be healthy for the entire season. And yet the longer this goes, Brian Daboll said the other day that he's getting better every week. And that's not incredibly encouraging, to be honest with you. At this point, I think it's fair to be a little bit worried about Andrew Thomas. I look at it this way. Theo Johnson, the rookie tight end last year, Theo Johnson also had Lisfranc surgery. He had it 5 or 6 weeks later than Andrew Thomas. Now, every week, every injury is a little bit different. Every surgery is a little bit different. But we haven't seen Andrew Thomas practice yet. And we've seen Theo Johnson practice every day since the beginning of OTAs. So I think it naturally leads to some concern until we see the guy.
Now, if Thomas doesn't make it back for opening day, is James Hudson the plan? And tell us a little about Hudson. He's been making some headlines. He's an interesting cat, seems to be a fiery guy. They're talking about he might be the first guy to get in a scrap at the training camp, if indeed the Giants ever have a scrap. Apparently, they're in very harmonious order these days, the New York Football Giants. So talk about James Hudson. What kind of player is he, and could he fill in if Thomas wasn't going to be the guy?
It's a love fest here at Giants camp. It's a big pillow fight. Nobody's had any fights or anything yet. So, everything is, peace and love and harmony. But in terms of James Hudson, had a chance to talk to him the other day. Really good guy. I was glad to see the Giants go out and sign a guy who's an actual swing tackle. We've pretty much taken bets that if and when there is a fight, James Hudson will be in the middle of it. And when I told him that the other day, he said, you're probably right. He said, you're probably right. I'll be in the middle of it. But, the good guy, energy guy, a lot of attitude. The question is, how good is he? And we just don't know. Everybody would rather see Andrew Thomas play than James Hudson play. And, But the bar's not real high, because the bar is he's got to be better than Josh Azudu and Chris Hubbard as a left tackle. So the bar's not real high.
You said that we're not sure how good of a tackle he's going to be until we see it on the field. But what's the confidence level in the Giants that he would provide a competent product in lieu of Andrew Thomas?
Well, they like him. Obviously, they brought him in because of his attitude, because of his energy. He's a really athletic guy. He can play both sides. Young guy that kind of came to the tackle position fairly late. I think he was recruited to college as a defensive tackle and got moved to the offensive side of the ball. So he's still learning. And he's rough around the edges, but there's a lot of physicality there. There's a lot of attitude there. There's a lot of things to like, but he's not going to be Andrew Thomas regardless.
Ed, we've been trying to solve this offensive line for the Giants for years. Is this going to be an improved product this year in your mind?
I hate to keep going back to it, but if Andrew Thomas plays 15, 16 games, the answer is yes. John Runyon, who veteran guard that the Giants signed a couple of years ago, John Runyon played all of last year with a separated shoulder. So he didn't have a great year, but when you're trying to block 300-pound guys with one arm, that's kind of difficult. Jermaine Illuminor is a good player. John Michael Schmidt's improved in his second year. And we'll see what happens with Evan Neal. There's some optimism, with Neal. There's some optimism that he might win that right guard job from Greg Van Roten. And the one thing I will say about Evan Neal is, as a guard, as an interior run blocker, this guy blocks out the sun. If you run behind a guy, you want to run behind a 6'7", 340-pound guy like Evan Neal. So it would be a good thing for the Giants if he wins that job. But in terms of the line overall, the continuity can't be a bad thing. And if Andrew, it's basically the same line as last year. If Andrew Thomas is healthy, then I think the line is fine.
Let's go to Mr. Unlimited, Russell Danger Wilson here. And apparently he's shown some chutzpah that he's given the Giants. If we are to believe what we're seeing in training camp, perhaps they actually have a competent quarterback for 2025. Are those observations you would share, Ed Valentine?
Well, everybody loves Russ here right now. Everybody loves Russ. Except, unless he does things like he did today during practice, which is like completely overthrow Wan'Dale Robinson and throw a pick six to Javon Holland. But, but everybody loves Russ right now. I mean, again, the bar's not high because even a diminished Russell Wilson the last couple of years is a better quarterback statistically than Daniel Jones has ever been. And the Giants, they seem to love Russ's leadership. They love his knowledge. This is a guy that's won a Super Bowl. He's been to the Pro Bowl 10 times. He knows what it's supposed to look like. And the Giants haven't had that. Who knows what happens and who knows how long he stays in the lineup, depending on how the season goes and how Jackson Dart's development goes. But right now, everybody loves Russ, here around the Giants.
I mean, give us a report on that complete quarterback room. I mean, obviously we want to hear about Dart and how he's progressing and what you've seen in these practices with him, but also tell us about Jameis Winston, even Tommy DeVito. It sounds like everybody's getting some work here. How's this thing all going to pan out, and how are people coming along here?
Well, I've heard people say it's the most interesting position room in the NFL, just with the personalities, I don't know if you guys are WWE fans.
We are.
Yes.
But, Russ was at SummerSlam.
Ooh.
Front and center, getting his picture taking everybody else's picture. One thing we've learned about Russ is that Russ manages to be everywhere that he's supposed to be. Everywhere that he can be seen, he manages to be there. But the quarterback room is so interesting. Jackson Dart, seems to be doing well. And when I say that, I don't mean well enough to take away Russell Wilson's starting job week one, but he's getting better, incrementally better as training camp goes along. I talked to a couple of the defensive backs recently, and they said, it's just not as hard to read his eyes. It's not as hard to pick up his cadence. It's not as hard to figure out his intent as it might have been even a couple of weeks ago. So there's growth coming there. And everybody loves Dart's attitude, his confidence, his swag, which is probably better than my swag. But everybody seems to really like that at this point. Jameis Winston, is Jameis Winston. And what's really interesting is Jackson Dart, for the last week or so, has taken almost all of the second team reps. And Jameis has been working with the third team.
Mm.
I don't know if that's how it's going to shake out when the season starts, but it's very interesting right now when you think of, because I think everybody thought Dart would be quarterback 3 when the season started and would probably be inactive on game days. And right now, I don't know if that's going to be the case. As for Tommy DeVito, he's getting where everybody else gets 8, 10, 12 reps, he's getting 2 or 3. So he's getting a couple of reps here and there, but he's not getting a whole lot unless the Giants get some sort of an offer for Jameis Winston, where they decide that somebody's offering them so much that they have to trade Winston. I don't see how DeVito makes this team. I mean, he would be headed for the practice squad unless he gets picked up on waivers.
Ed, when Josh Allen was a rookie, Paul and I went to Bills camp. And it was really fascinating because, as you know, at camp, a lot of times when they're doing drills, the quarterbacks work right alongside each other. Sometimes they're actually throwing the same route to different people across the field, or they're alternating and they're doing the same route one at a time. So you're getting to see the same throw. I remember very, very vividly when we saw Josh Allen throw alongside Nate Peterman and it was the kid from Alabama, A.J. McCarron at the time, were the 3 quarterbacks that were in camp for the Bills. It was a vast difference when the ball came out of that guy's hand. I was like, whoa, the ball seemed to get there in half the time. It was a tight spiral. I mean, there was just the immediate physical gifts of Josh Allen were on display. Now, whether you thought he had the head or not for football, we didn't know at that point. But what we did know is, man, this guy has a gift. What does it look like when the ball comes out of Jackson Dart's hand? And does it compare, or is it even better or worse than what we see with Winston and Wilson, 2 guys who are obviously established NFL players? Talk to me about that.
Well, Wilson, it's funny. Wan'Dale Robinson said that catching the ball from Russell Wilson is like catching a pillow, because it's generally a fairly soft throw, but Wilson can reach back and throw that deep ball. He can also he can rip it when he has to into a tight window. Jameis Winston has a big arm, and I would be really curious. We haven't seen a whole lot of that, quarterbacks standing next to each other, which I've seen in other training camps. We haven't seen a whole lot of that in this training camp. I would be really curious to see Dart basically stand next to Jameis Winston and see who can really rip it. With the most velocity and the most distance and all of that. I mean, there's no question in my mind that Jackson Dart has plenty of arm. He doesn't have Josh Allen's arm he doesn't have those kinds of physical traits. He's not 6'5" and 240 and with that kind of an arm, but he's got plenty of arm. And it's a question of how soon he develops the rest of his game and how soon he really gets full control of the offense and all of that. And I'm anxious to see, the Giants will be up in Buffalo on Saturday for the preseason game. And I suspect that Jackson Dart will play probably around a half of that game.
What's the overall preseason plan, Ed? There's coaches that have varying perspectives on this. Some don't play any of their starters at all throughout the entire preseason. There's others that play them the full time, and there's some that are somewhere in between. Where do the Giants stand?
The preseason plan is for the media to bring some tweezers or some pliers or something and pull Brian Daboll's fingernails out until he actually tells us the plan.
Yeah.
I see.
Because he's not going to tell us the plan. So as he never does. There's a lot of debate around here. The Giants have started the last 2 seasons Look at their last 2 opening games. The losses to Minnesota and the loss to Dallas by a combined week 1 score of 68-6.
Oh,
okay.
Good Lord.
So there's a lot of discussion here about whether Brian Daboll will play starters more in some of these preseason games, whether he'll give them more reps. Daboll has tended to err on the side of not playing guys or playing them as little as he can on the theory that he just wants them to get to week 1 healthy. But, healthy doesn't do you any good if you're not ready to play. So I think we're just going to have to wait until Saturday and see, because I don't think I'm pretty sure that even when we get to Thursday, the last time we get to talk to Daboll, I'm pretty sure he'll tell us, well, we're going to make that plan tonight when we have a coaches meeting.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Where you can't talk to him.
Where we can't talk to him again.
Go ahead, Boy Green.
Yeah, let me do a follow-up on Brian Daboll. Ed, you cover the team. You're literally there. You're out there in the bushes, for goodness sake. So let me ask you on Daboll, have you sensed a different vibe? Is he coaching any differently? Because I don't know what they're talking about inside the building, but outside the building, people have firmly placed Daboll and Joe Schoen, for that matter, on the proverbial hot seat. Has he acted like it? Has he coached around it? Ed, unfortunately, you've been covering the team for Big Blue View since 2007. You've seen a few different head coaching changes during that period of time. Is he acting different than he is with that expectation and pressure on the outside?
Interestingly, I would say the answer to that is no, not at all.
Okay.
It's entirely possible that things will change once we get into some games and if things don't go well for the Giants. But it's been interesting because Daboll has not said it out loud, but it looks like Daboll is not going to call offensive plays this year, which he did a year ago.
Interesting.
Okay. And it appears that Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator who did that job, did the play calling the first 2 years, it appears that that's going to go back to Kafka this year. Daboll has been more like 2022 Daboll, where he was sort of all over the practice field, working with the linebackers 1 minute, over there talking to the running backs the next, working all the different, saying hello to everybody during stretch lines. That was Daboll in 2022, even talking to us, where he doesn't give a whole lot of information.
Right.
To me, even though he doesn't give a lot of information, to me, just those back and forths with Brian have been a little bit more relaxed. Like I said, we'll see what happens when the game starts. But he doesn't look like a guy who thinks I have to be perfect to keep my job. Maybe that changes if they're 3-9, 3/4 of the way through the season. I don't know. But right now, he's not acting like a guy who's really stressed.
Well, Ed, let me talk to a guy that is impressing everybody. The reports out of camp for this guy sound like the same reports that were coming out of camp when Dallas brought Micah Parsons in as a rookie, and that's Abdul Carter. Talk to me about Abdul Carter. Is he making that big an impact? What should our expectations be of him here in his rookie season?
Well, all I can tell you about Abdul Carter is players know players, okay? Players know players, and when you talk to players on this team about Abdul Carter, they basically shake their heads, and it's like, they can't believe what they're seeing, just in terms of the movement, in terms of the maturity of his knowledge of the pass rush. If the players are wowed by this guy, then we need to be as well.
Interesting. Let me go to the other side of the ball. Malik Nabers, a guy who has been spotted on the injury report a handful of times, which is, I imagine, scared a lot of New York Giant fans. An integral piece to this Giants offensive puzzle. How has Malik Nabers looked? I'm sure Brian Daboll was more than forthcoming, giving you a full injury report on Malik Nabers. So I'm sure you can share those, intimate details here on the show. But what's going on here with Malik Nabers? And he's coming off a pretty historic season, which we talked with John Schmelk, who works for the team a couple months ago. And Malik Nabers was featured as the 7th best wide receiver in football based on a panel of scouts, coaches, and league executives. So the opinions are quite high on Nabers after year number 1.
So this is kind of a Daboll story and kind of a Nabers story. Last Tuesday, Malik left practice. He's face down on the field after 3 plays. All right, face down on the field after 3 plays because he got hit, trying to come in and throw a block on a running play. Left practice on Tuesday. Everybody's all worried. Oh, my God, Malik Nabers has a shoulder injury. Giants don't practice on Wednesday. We talked to Daboll Thursday morning. How's Malik? What's Malik going to do? And all Daboll says is, he'll do stuff today. He'll do stuff. You know what stuff was on Thursday?
What was that?
Stuff was take every snap and blow by every cornerback he went deep on.
That would be stuff.
That would be stuff. And I will tell you, Malik Nabers doesn't always say the right thing. He doesn't always say what he wants to say correctly, but you cannot question the man's tough. You cannot question his desire to be the best player that he can be. And what I said last week when I saw Nabers do that is, that's a young kid setting the standard for the players around him. If I'm going to be banged up and I'm going to come out here and I'm still going to take every snap in training camp, then you guys better not be sitting over on the sidelines either.
Our interview with Ed brought to you by our friends at Crest Cadillac. Let's just take 30 quick seconds and learn a little bit more about our friends at Crest.
Cadillac certified pre-owned vehicles, exclusively available in Central New York at your participating Cadillac dealer, Crest Cadillac. Each one must meet high standards and receives a 172-point inspection, along with a 1-year unlimited mile warranty after the original warranty expires. Come into Crest Cadillac in Syracuse today for exceptional offers on Cadillac certified pre-owned models. CrestCadillac.com.
Back with Ed Valentine, Inside Giants Training Camp. Ed down at camp, as you can see live, talking about all things Giants. Ed, Boy Green and I this morning were playing around a little bit with our way too early predictions, and we were picking every game. I must have been drinking before the segment because when I finished, I picked the Giants to finish 9-8. What was it, 10-7, Boy Green? It was some insane number.
10-7.
Yeah, 10-7. I was out of my mind. Obviously, I must have been drinking the night before and didn't remember. But give me your thoughts about a lot of people out there are passing along the narrative, despite this very difficult schedule, that the Giants may be better than advertised. A lot of people are really down on the Giants. How down should people be? We know this is a squad in development, but is it untenable to think that they could get to 8 or 9 wins this season? Let's talk about that.
I don't think it is, to be honest with you. Talent-wise, this is a better team. And, it's easy to be optimistic here in the middle of August and all of that. But I was having a conversation today with somebody about the fact that when you look around the roster, there are going to be a decent number of players that they cut who wind up on other teams' 53-man rosters. This is a team with it's not a perfect roster. It's not the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not there yet. It still has holes. But they have more players than they've had for a while. They should have better quarterback play. When I did my game by game way back when the schedule came out, I looked at it and I said 7-10. Well, look, it could be maybe they get to 9 if things go perfectly. And if the wrong guys get hurt, maybe it's a 5-win season. I don't know. Right. But right now, when you look at the talent base, what look like 2 really good drafts in a row, a quarterback room that gives you some optimism for 2025 and beyond. I think you feel better about this Giants team than you've felt in a while. The problem is the problem is how difficult that schedule might turn out to be.
And I always think the best of the Giant teams over the years have been the ones with good defenses. It feels to me like the Giants are thinking a little more defense these days than they have in quite a while. How does this defense rate? I'm a little concerned about the safeties and the corners, so maybe you can hit on those two positions in terms of what, again, our expectations should be there and what our overall expectation should be of this Giants defense.
Well, I look at that defense and you go by points per game, and the Giants were 20th in the league last year. They gave up, I think, 24.4 points per game. And if you knock a field goal off of that, get down to 21.5 points a game, that puts them in the top 10 in terms of points allowed. And I look at the talent: Abdul Carter, Javon Holland at safety, Paulson Adebo at cornerback, drafting Darius Alexander, a second year for Tyler Nubin, second year for Drew Phillips, who's a really good young, slot corner. And I don't see any reason why they can't get there. I really don't. Now, I'm not going to say that they're going to be the best defense in the NFL, that they're going to be top 5, but I don't see any reason why they can't be a really good defense that on a week-to-week basis gives them an opportunity to stay in football games.
Make sure you guys like the video and hit subscribe as you're watching along here on the Manchild Show Boy Green Digital YouTube page. Ed, what is the storyline? Whether it's a player that's unheralded in some way that you've been rooting for, that you've enjoyed covering, and it's hard knocksy in your way that you're like, hey, maybe this guy has a path to the 53-man roster if everything breaks right.
Well, the guy that I can't help but root for, and I don't honestly know if he has a path to the roster. He might be a guy that has a path to the practice squad. But the guy that I can't help but root for is Dalen Cambray, who's an undrafted free agent wide receiver out of Louisiana, an FCS school. This is a young man who caught 10 passes in a 5-year career. He caught 10 passes.
10.
As 10 total. He's here because of special teams. He's an All-American special teams player at Louisiana. Had a chance to talk to him a few days ago. Guy that has a post-playing career lined up as a coach all day. Really nice young man. I can't help but root for this kid. He's 5'10" and maybe 180 pounds, smaller guy, but like I said, guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and gets an opportunity with a really unique path. I can't help but root for the kid. We'll see if he can make some plays here on special teams in the preseason games.
Outside of Abdul Carter, Ed, is there another rookie that you've seen in camp that you think is going to make a splash here this season?
Well, another rookie that I think is going to make a splash, obviously Dart, of course, is probably not going to play unless we get later in the season and things aren't going well. Darius Alexander should be a good player, but I don't know if he fits that mold quite yet. I would have said Cam Skattebo, except that Skattebo is now dealing with a hamstring injury, and we're not sure if he's day-to-day or week-to-week or what he is at this point, but it doesn't look like an injury that's going to allow him to get back on the field in a couple of days. So I think it's Skattebo if he's healthy. The question is just when that's going to be.
All right. Fair enough. Ed Valentine, always great to check in with you. Thanks for spending some time with us right in the middle of Giants camp, giving us the latest and the greatest. We'll talk to you again soon, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right. There he is. Ed Valentine giving us some love. All right. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital going inside Giants training camp. We'll see you again soon, folks. Take care.